I have been very concerned about LSD in particular and hallucinogenics generally. I worked in a psychiatric hospital for 35 years, and one of the things I saw there repeatedly is many of the rock and roll types from the 60s and 70s who used a lot of LSD ended up in our hospital. They had the following: severe personality changes. Some of them became unable to take care of themselves, ended up in nursing homes, and most all had severe recalcitrant mood disturbances. Later, I started seeing people go down to Mexico and Central America for ayahuasca treatments and ibogaine. I saw something similar in some of those patients where the personality was clearly changed. Who they are, the person had changed, and some of them down the road later ended up with the mood disturbances that I was accustomed to seeing from LSD. Now, I've seen other bizarre neurological syndromes from LSD as well. I've seen normal pressure hydrocephalus, and I've certainly seen chronic psychosis. Now, that doesn't mean that's what happened in this case. Maybe it precipitated something that was already there. Maybe he already was drifting into schizophrenia. That's what happens at that age, and those patients will use a lot of substances. But were it not for my experience, where I had repeatedly seen very, very serious neuropsychiatric consequences from LSD, were it not for that experience, I wouldn't be so prone to blame this whole syndrome on the LSD itself, though we cannot conclude that that's the case. This is why we have the status of the criminally insane, or unable to to understand what happened, or unable to stand trial. I mean, these are, the legal system does try to accommodate these situations where people develop thought disturbances, psychotic episodes, where they oftentimes believe they're saving a family member or a loved one from some more dire consequence than what they actually perpetrate. And the legal system does try to take these things into consideration. I suspect that the magnitude of this and the gruesomeness of it, this is somebody that's not going to walk amongst us again.
I believe LSD can cause significant changes in brain function and change your behavior for that reason. And let's just take a step back and examine why LSD was even used in the first place. And the early experimentations recognized that it was sort of like shaking up a snow cone. You could get the brain to have to reboot, and the chaotic connections that happen in the brain after LSD theoretically could give you a vision, maybe hallucinations that might allow you to connect pieces of your life that otherwise seemed broken. And it is true that LSD stimulates serotonin, a well-known hormone in the brain, that has a lot of downstream effects. It increases blood flow, increases electrical activity, connects parts of the brain together. That's why people are experimenting with LSD and other drugs of its family for things like post-traumatic stress disorder and alcohol abuse. But that stated, it definitely increases impulsiveness. It leads to mood changes. And because of that, it could lead to hallucinations unexpectedly later on in your life. And that could be a major problem. And if it unmasks an already existing psychosis, which what seems to have happened in this case, even though I'm not involved in the care of the patient, from the outside, that psychosis can lead to all kinds of horrible behaviors. How do you deal with the consequences of bad behavior, whether or not you have mental health as an underlying cause of it? And if LSD is unmasked an already existing psychosis and you act on that psychosis, unfortunately, you're still responsible for that. But it is going to be a difficult challenge for the prosecutors in this case. I gather they're trying to pull all the data they can together. It's not evident to me as a physician what the right action is. If he had underlying psychosis that led to this, that would have put him in a different category than a premeditated homicidal act. But the role of LSD in moving him from awareness of what he was doing to a psychotic area, that's an unexamined territory.